Well, hi, everybody. My name is Adam Green. I'm the founder and CEO of Stunio. It's one of our first podcasts that we've recorded, starting to get some of the insights behind the scenes about how Stunio was created, why it's here, get insights from businesses, students, and university officials as well, to kind of understand why this is all here, what we're doing, what we're trying to solve, what other companies are missing, and sort of what the stats are showing in the employment market that really just call out a lot of big issues that, again, people are not solving, I think, as readily as as they should be. And so we're super excited to offer the new podcast series to overview exactly what's going on, and then again to overview how Stunio is trying to solve many of those problems. So kind of setting the scene, talking about the inception of Stunio. It's been a few years in the making. I went to Michigan State University, and then I went to the Michigan State University's College of Law. And during my second year at law school, I was selling my plasma twice a week. It's kind of our famous story I keep telling. I tell all of our partners, investors, whoever it may be, selling my plasma twice a week to make a little extra cash. It was about $55. It was at the CSL Plasma in Lansing. And I'd get up at about 5 or 6 in the morning, and I'd go drive my car and go wait in line in the morning before law school class and sell my plasma. That's what I did. And they have a little prepaid card that they'd give you, like a gift card of sorts, and they load it up with $50 after they took your plasma, and that's how I paid for gas. I bought a few groceries like that. It was not a lot, but $50 in those days was great, and it was what I needed to kind of get by, just with additional expenses that came up. It was my first time on my own, renting out my own apartment, buying my own food, all those sorts of things. And so in that sense, it was important for me to find flexible ways to make money. And that was the first thing that hit my head, because my dad did it when he was in college. And he always said, don't sell your plasma when you're in college, Adam. And sure enough, I went off and sold my plasma. So it was good. Like, it was fine. Like, it was, part of it is for a good cause. You're technically, contributing to, different, medical research and things that they use the plasma for. But unfortunately, I didn't do it with this, big heart in mind. I did it for a selfish reason, which was I wanted the $50 because I wanted to buy chicken, or I wanted to get gas. And so unfortunately, I wasn't doing it for the best of reasons. But it was fine for a time. I did it for about 5 or 6 months, I think, kind of in that second year, or the summer leading up to my second year at law school. And it got to the point where I started to get sick here and there, and then I got shingles on my back, pretty good case of shingles all across my back. And I went into the doctor, and they said, they're kind of asking me the questions, do you smoke, do you drink, do you do all those things? And they asked me, what's your diet like? And I told them, I'm like, okay, I'm eating this, I'm eating that. And it's not a lot of the, fresh fruits and vegetables types things. I was buying the cheapo, stuff at Kroger down the road in Lansing to get by, because again, I don't have that much money, and I was selling my plasma, and so I wasn't eating the best foods because I couldn't afford it. I didn't go to Whole Foods. I couldn't just buy all the freshness of things, and so the doctor was like, okay, well, you need a better diet. And I said, well, great, I can't really afford it. And then number two, I said, well, yeah, I'm also selling my plasma twice a week, and he said that's probably also contributory to your issues you're having with the shingles, because you're partially selling, part of your immune system every couple days. And at the very least, you're just becoming dehydrated because you're literally just expending all of this liquid literally out of your body. And he essentially said, you got to stop selling your plasma. So that was unfortunate, because that was my shtick, to get $50 every couple days. I had tried the whole Uber thing, like the whole DoorDash, because it's flexible. And it didn't work for me. Like, it was freshman year of college, me and my buddies in the dorms. We downloaded an app called Joy Run, so very much similar to DoorDash. And it was cool. Like, you got together with your buddies, and you got orders online, and you drive in the Taco Bell drive-through, and you'd sit there literally for 20, 30 minutes. This one time I remember we did, and wait for the food. You drive it and you deliver it, and you make literally, pennies on the dollar. It just seemed like nothing. So that was unfortunate. That was not a good way to make money, and especially, like, we were doing this at 11 to midnight. it was late. We had class in the morning. It's like, great, this is cool for like a couple bucks, but is this what we were going to want to do, longer term to make more money? Probably not. So that was a bit unfortunate, but that was my way to make money at the time. And so that's why I focused on selling plasma, because it was flexible. So anyways, now that I'm out of that option, the doctor said, you can't sell your plasma anymore. It's literally not healthy for you to what your situation is. I had to come up with a new way to make some extra cash. One of my buddies in Lansing, and two of our buddies actually, they started a gutter cleaning business. And they said, hey, do you want to get in on this? I said, no, I have law school and all these things. Like, I don't necessarily want to do it. And I thought about it, for a little bit. And actually, I kind of gave me an idea. I'm like, well, what if instead of just doing gutter cleaning, like I didn't particularly want to get on a ladder and do gutter cleaning. I'm good at like landscaping and yardscaping and those sort of things, planting flowers. And, my parents are horticulturists, so I've grown up around it quite a bit. I thought if there's a way that I could just start an odd jobs company, doing like landscaping, I would just love to do that, get paid to get my hands dirty. I do that for free at home anyways. Why not just do that? And so I started posting on Facebook just to random people, in the community. There's an East Lansing and Lansing group chat that I just put out there. Hey, I'm a law student. Good with planting and yard work. You could pick the price you want to pay me. Just I need a job. Like I need some money. And I think in the first post we had over 130 replies of people saying, I need this tree cut down. I need this bed weeded. I need these plants put in, all this stuff. And it started, that was the impetus for what has now become Stunio a couple years later. It started off as just a way for me to make some extra cash in a flexible way. And that was the way I thought I could do it. Was I'm going to self-market on Facebook and see if anybody would like to hire old Adam to get their hands dirty and make literally like 30 to 40 bucks, because they're paying 15 to 20 bucks an hour. It worked out great. Like that was a cool opportunity for me to like learn how to start the business, because what we did then is, I keep saying I brought in a few of my friends and I had them over to my apartment one night. And we talked about this business plan that I was coming up with and thinking that this could turn into a company, and that, from this we could, hire other students and they could do jobs and we could make more money and all these different things. And that's how it started. It turned into a student group, and then it morphed into an LLC, and kind of consistently over time, we've kind of grown the company into what it is today. It's taken on many different forms. We got into what's called the Burgess Institute for Entrepreneurship and Innovation. If you're at Michigan State or looking to go to Michigan State and are interested in business or entrepreneurship, please seek out the Burgess Institute. Paul Jakes, those folks over there, it's where we got started. It's the entrepreneurship hatching space to allow for student ideas to flourish into businesses. And there's been quite a few successful businesses that have come out of the Burgess Institute. And that's where we came out of. It was a good way for us to meet entrepreneurs, to get some initial funding. We did pitch competitions. We were able to have access to interns from development to marketing to socials to logo creation to legal, whatever it may be. So if you have questions on how to make a business, it was the first way that we understood exactly like what to do, when to do, who to contact. So really cool opportunity, and it really helped to streamline a lot of the things that a lot of student founders have to go through, which is the startup costs. Took care of a lot of the startup costs right off the bat for us, which was really cool. So we could just get rolling on, continuing to iterate on top of the idea of what the initial purpose of it was, which was, college student going out, flexible jobs, making cash. That was the idea that sparked the rest of it. It wasn't so much about the type of work, cutting down a tree versus, we helped a guy set up a garage sale once. We helped another lady with her technology needs. We did snow shoveling, whatever it may be, whatever it wasn't so much about the type of job. It was the main premise of students needing flexible cash, and then somebody in the community wanting a flexible, reliable labor source to come in and get those tasks done. Now, that sort of concept is not foreign to the country, our state, even just our region. There's other companies that have been started, who've come and gone. that have, focused on odd jobs, who focused on, getting students employed, even just not just students, but anybody getting employed. There's the TaskRabbits of the world, there's Handy, all these different things, but they all have their sort of niches. And so what we initially set out to do was be, the TaskRabbit for college students. And so for the first year, essentially, we had a Trello board, which was more or less just a, couple, cards on a website that said, here are some jobs that are coming in via our email system, or via, one time we got a letter. People would call us, say, hey, I need my dog walked, whatever it may be. We'd put it into this Trello board, this list, and then notify all the students in our student group that, hey, here's an opportunity. It's $15 an hour. It's on, the 31st of, March at 4 p.m. Who wants it? And then the first to comment under the Trello card would get the job. They'd be the one to take it. And we'd say, all right, you go there. We're going to pay you, all that stuff. And it worked. I mean, it worked for, a whole year of really growing that aspect of, we're going to do something super manually first, because I'm not a developer. I have no tech experience. I went to law school. I can write a heck of a, memorandum and, brief on, some legal case. But when it comes to, tech, I don't know any of it really. So it was a low tech way that we could start to test out the idea in market without having to first say, go pay somebody to make us a fancy app that then we go take into the market. We kind of first said, let's try a hacky manual way to get this into the market before we go expend a ton of money to kind of get it out there. And so that worked. And so that helped us, like I said, get into the Burgess Institute. We won some pitch competitions. It was great. Got a lot of advice. And then over time, I was able to bring in different people from the Burgess Institute and help develop the software that was what we had called Uniservices. That was the first version of Stunio. It's called Uniservices, University Services. That, again, TaskRabbit for college students. It was like a job board. We built it in the essence of like looking like Facebook. So the jobs would pop up and they kind of looked like a Facebook post. And then, the students could click on the job, they'd scroll, they'd click on it, they could filter by industry, whatever it may be, and then apply, and then wait. And then they wait. And so I emphasize the waiting part because that was one of the biggest issues with the system, as is with many systems today, the traditional job boards. Not going to name them all, but there's tons that you can probably think of right in your head right now, that you apply and you wait. And that's the traditional way you do it. Because you have to put in your application of why I'm good for this job, why I think, you should hire me. And we took that concept and applied it to these residential odd jobs of like lawn work and, lawn mowing and yard work and planting bulbs and, doing odd jobs around the house, things that needed to happen like quickly, good, quick turnaround. But we were having students do a literal application to get into those jobs. It wasn't as quick even as that Trello board that we originally had, which was, again, first to comment wins. First to comment gets it, and we're just sending them. The clients never asked. They never said, oh, who's coming? Is it this guy versus that guy? The idea that the college student alone was coming was enough. It wasn't a, general laborer, in their 40s, 50s, whatever it may be, not to, poo-poo on any of those folks, but just to say, the college student was coming was enough confidence. It instilled enough confidence in the clients that we worked with that they didn't care who came. But for whatever reason, in our first software that we built, we did emphasize this whole application type system like TaskRabbit. And what happened was the jobs would get posted, and if they were ever seen, because again, it's in a list, you have to scroll. If they were ever seen, students would apply. And then, the one student that got accepted, that's great. The 5 other students that didn't get accepted, well, it sucks. It's too bad because they took that time to write out their little thing of why I should be your lawnmower today and et cetera, and then they didn't get the job. So it's kind of a waste. They didn't make their money. And we lost people that way because they didn't want to participate and just apply and get churned because they're not getting any jobs. But it was a similar issue on the business side not on the business side, on the client side, these local residents that were using the system, they would post the jobs, and then in many ways they kind of forgot, or they needed the job done so quick that the whole application process of looking through applications, reading and all this stuff, It was too much. It was too long for them to, even go through before they already had the job done, because they probably went on Facebook, they found their neighbor, whatever it may be. They got the job done before sometimes we could even get there, which was unfortunate. But it was a good learning moment, because we understood that for those types of jobs, speed was essential. And for, the students that were active on the system, they could have been the first to apply. They could be just sitting on their phone, ready to look at those jobs. And, they could be the first to apply, but they didn't get accepted because, well, they didn't get accepted. They didn't win the bidding process or whatever it may be. So we took all of that learning, in Uniservice's first versions, and we applied it to what then we rebranded into, which is now Stunio, as you see today. And what the premise was kind of going back to that joy run I talked about earlier, with me going out there and, getting a notification on my phone saying, hey, Jerry wants Taco Bell, et cetera, deliver it here. And I said, great, I want that job, accept, and it's mine. And I can go deliver the food right now. That concept, that Uber-like concept, resonated with me so much so that even I kind of researched it and kind of understood early on when we were doing this process about 2 years ago that type of system it's a lot to make. Again, I'm not a software guy, but thinking that they have these advanced algorithms, those types of companies, DoorDash, Uber, Joyrun, all those things. They have these algorithms and their software within the app that assess, which driver or which worker is the most likely to book that particular job that is posted in an instant, because it's understanding where the driver is, what's their availability, what are their preferences, what type of car do they have, how close they are to Taco Bell versus Arby's versus whatever. And it's going to send that job to the most likely person to do it. And in that way, if I were to post a job on Joyrun and say, hey, I want a Taco Bell, the jobs are getting booked within, seconds, if not just a minute or two, because the system is so good at notifying the right type of person that wants to do that particular job. And so we took that thesis into what is now Stunio and built a very similar algorithmic structure within the software that assessed, okay, what students are available, what are their preferences for work, do they have a car, do they have a bike, do they walk, do they take the bus, whatever it may be, and assesses which students then are most likely to want to do this particular job, whether it's for Nancy down the road doing, washing her car, or doing photography for a local person in their home who's doing some, photo shoots, or taking down Christmas decorations, whatever it may be. Like we did it all. And the system that we built worked amazing. I mean, it's been the foundation of what we've built today for 2 years now, which has been amazing. Again, assessing which students are most likely to want to do those jobs, and then sending those jobs to the students on their phone in the form of a text and a notification saying, hey, here's this person for $120. I could show up in 4 hours and I could do some weeding and I'd make some money. Accept. And then they show up on site, they check in, and it's bingo bango, money's in their pocket because the money's deposited right away into their account. It was a quicker way to get the jobs done that needed to get done quicker. Again, using that reliable staffing source, which we always said is college students. And so what we had found was, kind of going to like the early challenges that we were facing with the company, it was, the types of jobs that we were having, as you can expect from, local residents, they don't need you every day, right? If you clean out Miss Nancy's garage one time, tomorrow you're not going to have to clean out her garage, unfortunately. She didn't messy it up that quick. And what that, you could win with one client, but then one client maybe only gave you, $60 worth of value, which is great. It's amazing. But to replicate that over how many times do you need to get a $60 client to make enough money to make a viable business? We're starting to do the math and we're like, oh my gosh, like that's a lot. And there was always a pathway to do it. We always believed that there was a pathway to do it because other companies have done it in similar markets and different things. And, and again, with the right types of, marketing, absolutely. But what was interesting is that as we were exploring how to keep doing this, how to scale up, we were, thinking about referrals and, knocking on neighbors' doors. If one client had a successful job, we'd go to the next two neighbors, and ask, do they need anything? Because Miss Nancy just got her thing done, kind of replicating it like that. As we were thinking about those ideas, we started to have local businesses start to use the system, which was always sort of like in the it was in the ether. Like those businesses that were wanting to use it, that wasn't the main purpose of the system. It was always to just be a residential odd job system. That's where we started. That's what I did on Facebook when I was asking people, hey, can I walk your dog? Can I mow your lawn? Can I plant some petunias for you? It wasn't a, hey, local business, can I do an event for you? I didn't even think of that. It wasn't even on my mind. I didn't have an interest. I thought, there's already things out there that get you connected to businesses. We're going to give you something else that connects to local residents. But like I said, businesses started to use the system. And it was interesting because it was at first for a lot of like odd jobs, general labor. And this is for the first like 6 months to maybe a year of our existence of Stunio, that the businesses that were using the system, again, were for the most part just odd jobs, general labor. We worked with a baseball stadium, we worked with a convention center, multiple wedding venues, local small businesses, doing packaging, doing event work, food services. We worked with a restaurant, doing catering at the Spartan Stadium, whatever it may be. We did a lot of the odd job type of things, and that was great. It's worked out amazing. But again, it was interesting. Like I said earlier, it's kept building on itself, and I think that's the mark of where our successes come from, is that we've not rooted ourselves in one thing forever, but we've really tried to listen to the market and understand where exactly the next thing is, or how is this building on to the next thing that we need to keep driving new revenues and opportunities for our business. And what happened was the businesses started to say, look, beyond just the odd jobs, there's other needs that us businesses have. We need long-term talent. Like, we're trying to vet and find long-term talent. It came in the form of the first contract I negotiated was with the Lansing Convention Center. Their CEO at the time was gracious enough to take us in and to give us a shot. And the contract we negotiated, he made me add in the contract, make sure you have a finder's fee. I said, what is that? He said, well, it's a way that a business, if the business were to hire a student, say full time, that we would pay you, the company, for essentially finding them for us. Through the odd jobs, they could say, hey, this Luke guy, pretty good guy, he's a hard worker, I want to take him on full time. We're going to pay you a fee so that we can take him full time. I never even thought of that. I didn't think that was a thing. I didn't know it was a thing. Again, I'm in law. I'm not in business even at that time. And it was a new revelation. So we implemented the finder's fee. That was the basis for where we've gone today, to where those opportunities for businesses to use the short-term jobs, whether it's a gig, a last-minute fill-in, they have surge needs, up to they need to post a micro internship or have a part-time job scheduled on the app. These are all things that we can do in our current Stunio system. Whatever it is, the businesses are using, and that's what we're promoting Stunio as, using those opportunities to potentially find what full-time employees they could have. So instead of just using a job board and saying, hey, we need to conduct an interview process, we're going to have resumes sent in. And the big issue today is all the AI that's being used. That's a lot of our pillars, our Stunio pillars, which you'll probably find out about in some future podcasts or on our website. The amount of AI that's being used to push out applications, thousands of applications to businesses right when they post a new job opportunity, and vice versa for students. They have their resume that, through the power of AI, is getting sent to hundreds, if not thousands, of other businesses that are irrelevant to what they actually want to do. It's causing a big issue in the market where students, the unemployment number of students after graduation is actually rising, which you think it should be the opposite. There's more tools, there's more job boards, everybody's saying AI is the future, all these things. And it's like, for a lot of those instances, it's actually hurting the hiring process. So it's been really unfortunate. But it was interesting to see how businesses have interpreted the use of short-term job opportunities to be the pathway or the pipeline into more full-time opportunities. And so that's where we are today. I won't get into all the dirty details of what exactly this is all about and how it works. There's plenty of time for that. But it's the entrepreneurial journey. Like I said, is it's hard. We've went through a lot of different struggles. We've had people join the team. We've had people leave the team. We've had different investors in the company now, which has been amazing. We've had issues with safety. Students have been hurt on a job site. We've had dissatisfied clients. We've had students be upset because they didn't get jobs. There's been problems for sure. And I don't think that's necessarily unique to our business versus anybody else. There's problems every day with any type of business. But I think the thing that has kept me most motivated every single day is just this idea that there could be a new way to approach this hiring problem. And that, again, at the time we started Uniservices and it was just a student group, we were solving a problem that was, necessary and important, which was students needed the flexible access to cash because they just couldn't pay for enough, things with, a loan, or they're just, where to get money. To have a job in college, and whether you're working at the library or working at McDonald's, the traditional like part-time or even full-time jobs, it's not accessible to many people who have very rigid class schedules. And those problems have existed and persisted since we started Uniservices. And then as we've seen sort of the transition from local residents using the system now into enterprise business users using the system, many of the same problems exist too. That the other solutions out there aren't providing as quick, as reliable, and as sort of repeatable talent that they need to, one, fill their surge needs that come up, because there's always those needs that come up in businesses. Doesn't matter if you're an accounting company versus an event center, or a sports stadium, or a law firm, whatever it may be, those needs are always there. And then two, establishing better pathways for long-term employment. Because again, the current systems, as we've heard it, are not satisfactory to many of the businesses that we work with, thinking that, one, the systems don't allow them to get exposure because they cost so much to even get in front of anybody. The big dogs, the big companies dominate a lot of that space. And then two, it's just about getting, in front of the right people to show that, this company even exists. You may not know it, but in your backyard, there's 1,000 businesses that you didn't even know of because they're not the top, they're not in the Fortune 500 that are posting on the job boards, saying, here's our opportunities. And then you think you have to move somewhere else or be unemployed because you don't even know that there's opportunities that exist. So what we're trying to do is give businesses a better way to source, hire without the hassle, reliable talent that eventually could turn into full-time opportunities. Really cool story from one of our business partners in Grand Rapids, Hex Armor. They had said during COVID, during 2020, they had an assembly line essentially of PPE products like face shields for COVID. One line was college students and one line was the traditional like temp worker. As we expected, as they said, the students were on time, performed better work. The stats showed that they would just perform much better. It was great. But I thought the even cooler part of that story was that, I forgot the exact number, it was like 6 or 8 of the students who participated on that assembly line now work full-time for the company. And they didn't know about the company prior. And so that was an idea that kind of helped, spark a light in our head to say, short-term opportunities, albeit, sure, you're just assembling a face shield, whatever it may be. It's valuable enough to give students an access to understand that, one, this business exists because I didn't know about it. I didn't see it on a job board. Two, that maybe I like this workplace culture. Three, maybe I met somebody, maybe I met the workplace manager that's really good guy, really good gal, and I really like working here. Four, that a full-time job is available at this place that, again, number one, I didn't even know about. So it was really cool for us to sort of think through that, what Stunio would not just be an odd jobs platform to connect local students to, the most flexible of, event serving, catering, weeding, yard work type of jobs. It's that we could use the system, the same software that we've built that we'll talk about in the future, to facilitate the gigs, the surge needs into the part-time jobs, into the internships, into the contract hires, into the full-time jobs, all through the same system, that the gigs would lead to the full-time jobs. As opposed to just saying, hey, look, I graduated college, I have no experience, I didn't have time for a job, I worked at McDonald's, or literally I sold plasma, or I drove for Joyrun or Uber. And you can't put that on a resume, right? We're trying to give students resume building opportunities on a flexible basis that, again, still satisfies their need for cash so that they, again, don't have to sell their plasma at CSL Plasma, despite how good it is to cellular plasma for the community. So a lot's changed. It's my motivation behind this has always been, the people that we work for, seeing the impact it has on the students, the impact it has on our clientele that have used the system, to hear about, the literal just connections that are made from, facilitating a job opportunity. It's been really cool to just hear the stories about how students have paid off debt, or a student has saved up money to buy books, or a student has saved up money to go on a vacation, or a business has solved a big staffing issue that they had for 35 years and they never completed this. And, all their temp agencies have only had about a 20% success rate. And we had a 100% success rate of 50 students at one time in the negative. It was like negative 10 degrees wind chill. All 50 students showed up. Hearing those impact stories, even like the local clientele who used this originally, how it changed their life to just have somebody reliable, trustworthy, nice, these young people to come over and give a helping hand. It's like we're trying to create that bridge. We talk about Stunio as a bridge into the community, from these colleges that in many ways are islands. The students don't leave often to go out and to, meet with local community members, or, it's, whatever it may be. Or the first touch they may have with a business is when they meet them at a career fair. We don't want that to be the case. We want businesses and students to interact the first day a student is on campus, because a business has a job opportunity to bring in a student for even just a 3-hour shift, to do something, and that could turn into an internship. That could turn into a contract to hire. That could turn into a relationship that turns into a full-time job. And that's the essence of Stunio. That's the, why I started it. That's why it's continued, through all the struggles. And there's been a ton of fire that has happened in the past, years of me running this. And, but I love it. I mean, that's my values here. Like there's, the kind of world that we're trying to build includes this flexible, dynamic opportunity for students to participate in their local economy and to participate in business without the current hurdles that are just, again, causing more and more students to become unemployed after school, after graduation, and more businesses to just still be looking for help, and who continue to have same issues of, bringing on employees and then them immediately churning because either one, they were fired, or two, the person quit because there was a disconnect in the person not understanding what this business is all about, and the business not understanding what that person's all about, because you can't get enough data, information from a 30-minute interview, a resume of pre-selected, cherry-picked recommendations of, here's who Adam Green is on a platter. That's not the full story of who I am, what my work ethic is like, how I'm going to show up to work on time, how I'm going to put in all of my effort, et cetera, how I've participated in multiple industries during my college years, et cetera. Like there's so much data that we're trying to collect around student engagement and deploy that to businesses to show them this is not just a person on this, their story is more than just this, black and white text on a paper, with their email and their LinkedIn page where it's all stuffy and all this stuff. We want to show real data around real people about their real experiences and how they're going to provide real value to the businesses that they work for. And so we're trying to come against those issues, and that's why Stunio matters. It's come from a place of, I would say, selfishness. I needed money to get by. I needed money to eat. I needed money to put gas in my car. But what it's come to now is the connection between students needing cash. They also need experience. They also need connections. They also need real work experience. Because how many employers have you seen, if you've seen them, say, we need X amount of years of experience before you can even apply for this job? Many students say, I just got out of college. And this is an entry-level job, but entry-level many times is accompanied by you need X amount of years of experience. How are you supposed to do that with such rigid schedules, especially when you have so many rising costs that prohibit you from participating? So again, that's why Stunio matters. We're trying to solve a lot of these issues. I'm really excited about where we're going to be taking this in the months to come. Even where this podcast is going to go. I think we've dubbed it work in progress, because we're all works in progress. Students are works in progress. Businesses are works in progress as well. we want to talk about the hiring challenges that really are inhibiting everybody in this country from reaching their full potential. And talk about how these other systems just aren't cutting it. There needs to be a new approach to how we're looking at these problems and really why we're looking at these problems. It's not about it's not just about profit or the bottom line, right? We're trying to make these real connections happen because it matters. People matter, and that's my values here with Stunio and what really why I'm here and why I've devoted much of my professional life after graduation of law school. I went full time in the company. I went almost a full year without even paying myself during a period of time in the company. And my wife, Amelia, bless her heart, helping to sacrifice for our family to help us to continue the mission of getting it to this point, and to see now where Stunio is at is just, it's a blessing. So I'm hopeful and excited that you'll join us on this journey to continue listening, continue reading about our blogs. We're going to talk about the issues with hiring. We're calling them the hiring struggles 1 through 6. These are like Stunio's pillars, and we're so excited because again, this is impactful work that we're doing at Stunio. That again, we're trying to take to as many college campuses across the country, to impact as many businesses and students across the country. That really leads to affecting our whole economy in the future, putting people in better job opportunities, and just giving them more efficient ways to hire. So that's why I'm here, and I'm excited you're here. Thanks for watching. Please stay tuned for a lot of upcoming interviews for the Work in Progress podcast, learning from college students who are facing the hiring struggle right now, to business owners who are facing those struggles, and even to the university officials who, again, see these problems exist, but up to this point have only relied on the job boards to satisfy, but again, are still kind of facing the fire because students are not finding the jobs they want, and they're not using those job boards. So we got to give them a better way. So really excited, and thank you for listening, and talk to you soon.